科学ではわからんこともこの世にはあるってことか。
出たよその超トーク。だから仮説と実験繰り返してんだろうが。地道なもんだ科学は。
Let's talk about the Alchemist. The Alchemist is considered one of the worst subclasses in the game, but today we're going to turn that around. There's so much a person can do with an Artificer and an Alchemist that people haven't discussed before. And I hope in this video I can show you the Alchemist is worth using. But first things first, if you like this type of content, please give me a like and subscribe. That'll enable me to do more. Well, here's the layout to this guide. First, we'll talk about experimental elixir and how you can use that to affect your game. And then we'll talk about the different things the alchemist can do via being an artificer. And lastly, we'll talk about your starting stats and the level progression for the build. So let's get started. Experimental elixir. Beginning at 3rd level, whenever you finish a long rest, you can magically produce an experimental elixir in an empty flask you touch. Roll on the experimental elixir's table for the elixir's effect, which is triggered when someone drinks the elixir. As an action, a creature can drink the elixir or administer it to an incapacitated creature. You can create additional experimental elixirs by expending a spell slot of 1st level or higher for each one. When you do so, you use your action to create the elixir in an empty flask you touch and choose the elixir's effect from the experimental elixir table. Creating an experimental elixir requires you to have alchemist supplies on your person, and any elixir you create while this feature lasts until it's drunk or until the end of your next long rest. When you reach certain levels in this class, you can make more elixirs at the end of a long rest. 2 at 6th level and 3 at 15th level. Roll for each elixir's effect separately. Each elixir requires its own class. So how can we take advantage of experimental elixir? Well, one thing we can do is rest cast it. Rest casting is something you can do, which you cast a very long duration spell during your long rest. So when you finish your long rest, you get your spell slots back and you still keep with the benefits of whoever you cast it. In this example, we can take advantage of experimental elixir's duration to make as many as we would need. So why does this work with experimental elixir? Simply put, if we look at the duration of experimental elixir, it is as follows. Any elixir you create with this feature lasts until it is drunk or until your next long rest. So if you create elixirs during your long rest, when you finish your long rest, you're still waiting for your next long rest. What this enables us to do is take advantage of downtime or extra spell slots we may have throughout the day. Not potentially the most powerful thing if you're in constant battle day to day, but if you have a lot of downtime and a good amount of spell slot, you're able to produce a good amount of elixirs for yourself, basically for free. Here's the next concept, and that's PreCasting. Some of these abilities are pretty good, but it does suck that you have to waste an action to use them. Our way around that is to use them before combat starts, if we're able to. So let's get into the elixir effect. Number 1, healing. The drinker regains a number of hit points equal to 2d4 plus your intelligence modifier. This isn't really particularly the best. Costs an action to use, and there may be alternative ways to heal outside of combat. This one isn't the best at all. 2, swiftness. The drinker's walking speed increases by 10 feet for 1 hour. This effect isn't the most impactful, but this duration is an hour, and a 10 feet boost can help in kiting or getting where you need to go in combat. Resilient. The drinker gains 1+ bonus to AC for 10 minutes. Now this is actually really good. If you're able to precast this, do so. 1 AC is pretty useful in this game, and boosts to AC are relatively rare. So if you can get this, use it. Now as an action, I would pass this up. I probably want to do something more offensively based than to activate this. Boldness. The drinker can roll a d4 and add the number rolled to every attack roll and saving throw they make for the next minute. This ability is insanely good. It is essentially blessed in a bottle. The big downside to this is it's a minute, which makes it very hard to get a precast. Additionally, it may be up in the air if that's worth it as an action. Still, offense tends to trump any little buff you can give. But if precasting is available, you can very much be virtually invincible. Number 5, Flight. The drinker gains a flying speed of 10 feet for 10 minutes. The flying speed here isn't that great, but flying itself is great. Roughly, most monsters have a range of about 5 feet. With a simple movement, you can fly outside of most monsters' ranges. This is pretty awesome if you can precast it, and if you're fighting monsters that can't do anything against area opponents, I would even recommend using it as an action. Transformation. The drinker's body is transformed as if by the altered self spell. The drinker determines the transformation caused by the spell, the effects of which last for 10 minutes. This is the worst ability. Alter Spell isn't that great. There may be some situations where you might need those abilities, but hardly. Based on those descriptions, we can kind of separate the experimental elixirs into 2 categories. Things we would love to precast and things worth an act. So in terms of things that may be worth precasting, the list is as follows: Boldness, Resilience, Flight, Swiftness, Healing, and then Transformation. Here is the list of things that may be useful as an action even in combat: Flight, Boldness, Resilience, Healing, Swiftness, Transformation. Those are my rankings of which would be the best to cast. Remember to plan out your situations and figure out when and how you can use it. Any advantage helps, and Alchemist's playstyle is always to try to plan ahead. Artificer Tech. Now that we touched on experimental elixirs, how can we use the Alchemist base as an artificer to our advantage? Well, there's a few ways we can. Grapple Flight. It's a very interesting concept that has layers to it. So work with me here as I explain how to do this. So first, let's learn about grappling. When you want to grab a creature or wrestle with it, you can use an attack action to make a special melee attack, a grapple. If you're able to make multiple attacks with the attack action, this attack replaces one of them. The target of your grapple must be no more than one size larger than you and must be within your reach. Using at least one free hand, you try to seize the target by making a grapple check instead of an attack roll. A strength athletics check, contested by the target's strength athletic or dexterity acrobatics check. The target chooses the ability to use. If you succeed, you subject the target to the grapple condition. It just specifies the things that end, and you can release the target whenever you like. No action required. And we'll go to the most poignant part for us: moving a grapple creature. When you move, you can drag or carry the grapple creature with you, but your speed is halved unless the creature is 2 or more sizes smaller than you. What we are going to do is be a small character, thanks to custom lineage, and have our homunculus grab us, and while we're in that grab state, drag us around in the air. This works because homunculus can grab, the homunculus has flight, and 3, you're able to move around a grapple creature, which our homunculus is doing. So essentially what this is doing is taking the grapple condition and the grab state and flipping it for our advantage. So you may wonder, what about weight? Does that come into our calculations? Actually, no. Jeremy Crawford was asked about the weight question when it comes to grappling. Here's his reply. The rule on moving a grapple creature works regardless of the creature's weight. It only cares about the creature's size. The rule doesn't apply on weight, largely because we do not specify the weight for most monsters. So it doesn't apply. Here, we only have to worry about our size. Since the homunculus is tiny, it is able to pick us up as a small creature. Now, how can we maximize this? First, we could give the homunculus an elixir or something like that to increase its movement speed, as it will be flying half speed, which is only 15 feet. Second, we can actually prone ourselves while being grappled this way, making us immune to melee attacks via the fact that we're flying, and grant disadvantage to all ranged attacks, meaning we become incredibly hard to hit with anything. Half cover rules can apply to our homunculus as it's, propping us up and it's very close to our space. So what happens here is we get a very powerful defensive suite out of a simple grapple. Also, we can stay in this condition forever until someone shoots us down. Second, spell wrought Tac 2 infinite. When we create infusions, we can create a multitude of items. One of those items is spell wrought Tac 2. And here's what it says. Produced by a special needle, this magic Tac 2 contains a single spell up to a 5th level, wrought onto your skin by a magic needle. To use the Tac 2, you must hold the needle against your skin and speak the command word. The needle turns into ink that becomes the Tac 2, which appears on the skin in whatever design you like. Once the Tac 2 is here, you can cast its spell, requiring no material components. The Tac 2 glows faintly when you cast the spell and for the spell's duration. Once the spell ends, the Tac 2 vanishes from your skin. The level of the spell in the Tac 2 determines the spell's saving throw DC, attack bonus, spellcasting ability modifier, and the Tac 2's rarity, as shown by the spell wrought Tac 2 table. So that's a lot. Based on the rarity, we can only get level 1 spells and cantrips. But the key part here is the Tac 2 glows faintly while you cast the spell and for the spell's duration. When the spell ends, the Tac 2 vanishes from your skin. So you lose the ability to use the Tac 2 when the duration of the spell ends. How we can use this in almost an infinite way, there are some spells that have very long durations. And since the Tac 2 only disappears when the duration ends, we can constantly use the spell within the Tac 2. This works really well with a whole list of spells. I'll show you guys here what you can take advantage of. Can be a little crazy and can be pretty insane, but a lot of these spells aren't broken. Bag of Holding Bomb. Bag of Holding. This bag has an interior space considerably larger than its outside dimensions, roughly 2 feet in diameter at the mouth and 4 feet deep. The bag can hold up to 500 pounds, not exceeding a volume of 64 cubic feet. The bag weighs 15 pounds regardless of its content. Retrieving an item from the bag requires an action. If the bag is overloaded, pierced, or torn, it ruptures and is destroyed, and its contents is scattered in the astral plane. If the bag is turned inside out, its contents spills forth unharmed, but the bag must be put right before it can be used again. Breathing creatures inside the bag can survive up to a number of minutes equal to 10 divided by the number of creatures, minimum 1 minute, after which they begin to suffocate. Placing a bag of holding inside an extra dimensional space created by a handy haversack, portable hole, or similar item instantly destroys both items and opens a gate to the astral plane. The gate originates where one item was placed inside another. Any creature within 10 feet of the gate is sucked through it to a random location on the astral plane. The gate then closes. The gate is one way only and cannot be reopened. So we can replicate magic item multiple times, and we can pick the same item multiple times. This enables us to do the Bag of Holding Bomb. So the Bag of Holding Bomb is having a familiar or something else expendable like an unseen servant or a tiny servant place a bag of holding into another bag of holding, creating the astral portal and sucking up an ideal target such as a boss monster or a group of creatures within 10 feet. This is insanely strong because there is no save, meaning that if your opponent doesn't have the ability to planar travel, they instantly lose when they get hit by this. And that's most monsters in the game. Pipes of Haunting, which is extremely good, and you can get at level 6. You must be proficient with wind instruments to use these pipes. They have 3 charges. You can use an action to play them and expend 1 charge to create an eerie, spell-blinding tune. Each creature within 30 feet of you that hears you play must succeed on a DC 15 Wisdom saving throw or become frightened of you for 1 minute. If you wish, all creatures in the area that aren't hostile towards you automatically succeed on the saving throw. A creature that fails the saving throw can repeat it at the end of each of its turn, ending the effect on itself on a success. A creature that succeeds on its saving throw is immune to the effect of these pipes for 24 hours. The pipes regain 1d3 expended charges daily at dawn. So this object is amazing. It's a free fear spell that you don't have to worry about friendly fire. Additionally, because we can create multiples of the same infusion, if we create 2 copies, activate the effect, the monster becomes immune to the first copy of our Pipe of Haunting. If we use another one, they will be affected, as the effect only applies to 1 copy of Pipes of Haunting. So this is an insanely awesome item to have. It saves you on spell slots, spammable with multiple copies. It's pretty much everything you would want in an item. Use it. So let's talk about stats. Custom lineage, our size is small and our stats are 14 dexterity, 14 constitution, 17 intelligence, and 12 wisdom. For our free feat, I would suggest a telekinesis, giving us a +1 to intelligence, bringing our intelligence to 18. So let's talk about level progression. Level progression for Alchemist is quite simple. We want to get to level 7 for Flask of Genius. We've gained the ability to come up with solutions under pressure. When you or another creature you can see within 30 feet of you makes an ability check or a saving throw, you can use your reaction to add your intelligence modifier to the roll. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your intelligence modifier, minimum of once. You regain all expended uses when you finish your long rest. That's a very useful ability. We would like to at least get that. And then for the rest of it, we go Wizard. By going Wizard, we allow ourselves to gain not only more spell slots, but of really good spells that we wouldn't have access to later. Certainly there's some cool stuff at higher levels with Artificer, but none of this truly compares to the amount of effectiveness we can get by being a wizard. So what wizard choices do we have? One of the wizard choices is a chronology wizard. Not only does it allow us to get Gift of Alacrity in an easier way, the rerolls are still relatively useful, even if we have Flask of Genius. You can go with Conjuration Wizard for all the crazy and wacky things I describe in the video below. But talk to your DM about how strong you should be allowed to be in the game. And that's it. Hope you enjoyed the build, and I hope I was able to convince you that the Alchemist is worth using and there's a lot of cool things you can do with it. Also, if you like this content, please like and subscribe. Every little like and subscribe enables me to do more.